Before we get into the vid, do your duty, eh? Give it a thumbs up. It keeps the servitors happy. Slam the subscribe rune so you don't miss the next dose of misery, and drop a comment saying which world you'd want to live on. Just don't say a paradise planet. We both know those don't exist. Right, let's get to it.
I was born in the darkness, and likely I'll die here in the darkness. That's life on Makenna 7, an Imperial mining world teetering on the edge of hell. Down here, the sun never reaches us. Only the dim glow of lumen strips and the fire of plasma drills lights our days. If you can call them days at all. Time loses meaning when you toil a kilometer beneath the surface, breathing recycled air that tastes of rust and rock dust. Welcome to my world, where every dawn is artificial and every meal could be your last. They call this place a mining world, which is a polite way of saying prison with a sky. Makenna 7 is rich in minerals the Imperium needs, and so here we are, millions of us, scraping precious ore out of the guts of this planet, one swinging pick and grinding drill at a time. Most of us are born to it, and those that aren't usually die within a year, crushed in a cave-in or coughing up black phlegm from the dust. The lucky ones, they say, get conscripted into the Imperial Guard and shipped off to fight somewhere marginally less miserable. The unlucky? Well, they just keep mining until there's nothing left of us but bones ground into the ore. On Makenna 7, the sky is a lie. Thick clouds of toxic smog and perpetual storm blot out the sun. When our shifts end and we trudge to the surface loading yards, all we see above is a swirling murk of ash-gray clouds spitting acidic snow. The air burns your lungs if you breathe it too deep, so we keep our rebreathers on until we're back in the hab. Not that the hab stacks are much safer, just marginally warmer and only slightly less likely to kill you in your sleep. The wind outside howls like some hungry beast. Sometimes I wonder if it's actually the planet screaming as we tear it apart. They say the Imperium of man spans 1,000,000 worlds, but I doubt any emperor-forsaken rock in the galaxy could feel as forgotten as this one. We have a saying among us miners. The Emperor's light doesn't shine underground. It's a half-joke, whispered with a bitter grin over our recaf or our thin soup rations. Officially, of course, we praise his name and pray for his protection every time we descend into the pits. Unofficially, let's just say after enough years of back-breaking labor and daily brush with death, a man starts to wonder if the God Emperor even knows this world exists. If he does, he clearly has bigger concerns than a few million expendable miners. Expendable, that's what we are. They don't say it to our faces, not usually anyway, but it's in every cold command and every impossible quota handed down from the administratum clerks or the mine overseers. If one of us falls, 5 more will take his place. There's always more bodies to throw at the rock. Many of my mates are convicts shipped from off-world, or the sons and daughters of penal workers who couldn't pay some arbitrary debt. Others are just drifters and refugees scooped up by press gangs or rounded up from the underhives of distant hive worlds, dumped here to work or die. Me? I suppose I'm one of the lucky ones. I was born here in one of the mining camps. My parents were laborers too. I grew up thinking the sound of ore crushers and the glow of the forge fires on the horizon were normal sights and sounds of home. I didn't know any better. Life on a mining world teaches you lessons fast. Lesson 1. Hope is a dangerous thing. The moment you start dreaming of something better, this place will crush that dream under a haul loader's treads. Best to keep your head down, do your shift, and snatch whatever brief pleasures you can. A swig of bootleg amasec, a quick smoke of aloe, maybe a round of regicide cards with friends. before the next work cycle begins. Because it always comes back around, the endless cycle of toil. My day, if you can call the arbitrary 28-hour cycle on this rock a day, begins like every other. I'm jerked from a fitful sleep by the blare of the shift siren echoing through the hab block corridors. It's a sound that could wake the dead, and often does, considering some poor souls collapse in the dormitory after a double shift and never rise again. I peel my eyes open to the flicker of failing lumen strips overhead and the smell of too many bodies crammed into one dorm. Sweat, unwashed coveralls, and a lingering tang of promethium fumes, the perfume of a miner's morning. Around me, dozens of my fellow miners stir and groan. Metal bunk frames creak as men and women roll out of thin mattresses. A few curse the machine spirit of the alarm, or the sadistic scheduling clerk who set it. I swing my legs over the side of my bunk, second tier in a stack of 3, and drop down, narrowly missing Joran's head as he sits up below me. "Watch it, Mirael," Joran grumbles, rubbing his shaved scalp. "We've shared this bunk stack for 3 years now. He's as close to a friend as one can have in this place. We give each other hell, but I've pulled him out of a cave-in and he's dragged me out of a flooded shaft, so there's a bond forged in blood and rock between us." I mutter an apology and start gearing up. Rule number whatever. Never be late for shift muster. Our overseer, Calto, would love an excuse to dock our measly script pay, or worse, make an example with that shock prod of his. Pants, boots, dust-caked jacket, all smell of mold and machine oil, but they're familiar as a second skin. I tug on my heavy canvas work coat emblazoned with the faded cog and pick emblem of our mining corp. It's threadbare at the elbows, but has kept me alive through years of flying rock shards and occasional lashings of freezing surface wind. Across the aisle, I catch old Seb doing his morning stretch. Emperor knows how old Seb is, older than the mine itself, some joke. His face is a roadmap of scars and wrinkles etched by decades in the pit. He gives me a toothless grin. "Rise and shine, lads. Another day in paradise," he wheezes with that trademark sarcasm, his voice like gravel. I chuckle under my breath. In a place like this, humor, especially the dark kind, is as much a tool for survival as our rebreathers. Speaking of, I grab my respirator mask and check the filters. The indicator rune flickers green, for now. These scrap filters clog fast with dust. More than a few miners have choked when their gear failed mid-shift. Next, I secure my helmet with its flickering lamp pack. A quick thump gets the lumen to ignite in a weak yellow beam. Emperor willing, it'll hold out until first break. Around us, the dorm is alive with the quiet chaos of shift change. Miners pulling on boots, shrugging into hazard suits or patchwork armor pieces if they've got them. A few say their morning prayers silently, lips moving as they recite litanies to the god emperor or the patron saints of miners. Saint Drusus is popular here. I see Joran touch the small Aquila pendant he wears on a cord around his neck and whisper, "Emperor, guide my hands today." A traditional plea. I used to say it too, but these days I find it hard to muster. Instead, I just tighten the straps on my boots and hope I'll return to untie them later. All workers of third shift report to Shaft Delta for muster. All third shift to Shaft Delta. The tinny voice blaring from the Vox speakers overhead repeats the command twice. The accent of the speaker is clipped, posh, probably one of the overseer's pet clerks or a junior tech priest who drew assignment on the public address system today. They never sound like us. Joran slings an arm around my shoulder as we shuffle toward the exit. "Heard we might get double rations today," he says, managing a grin. "Shipment from off-world came in." I snort. "I'll believe it when I'm choking on corpse starch pudding," I reply. Off-world food shipments are rare as an honest clerk, and when they do come, most of the good stuff ends up in the overseer's mess. Still, the mere rumor puts a spark of hope, or at least less misery, in the morning. We funnel out of the barracks into the main corridor, joining a river of bodies in identical gray worksuits trudging toward the muster point. The walls of the passage are riveted steel plating, sweating with condensation. Under the flicker of failing luminators, hundreds of miners march in near silence, but for the clomp of boots and an occasional cough. Many coughs, actually, a dry, hacking chorus echoing off the metal walls. Rocklung claims another few every month. As we pass through a checkpoint, an enforcer drone scans our ident tags, little metal chips riveted to our arms. Mine reads, Mirael guess, drudge grade. The data spool clicks as it logs each of us. If you're not logged on shift, you don't get your meal chit later. Not to mention you'll have armed overseers hunting you down, wondering why you're not where you're supposed to be. At the end of the corridor, we emerge into the chilly morning air at ground level. We're still deep in a canyon-like strip mine, but this is the surface for us, an open pit where the sky is a haze of gray. I instinctively tug my respirator up over my mouth and nose. The tang of cold, metal-laced air bites at any exposed skin. It's dimly light out here. The sun is just a pale suggestion beyond the toxic cloud cover, but floodlights mounted on towers around the pit illuminate the staging area in stark white light. The snow under our feet is black from soot, crunching like glass shards as we walk. Shaft Delta's muster point is a broad platform of rockcrete adjacent to a massive elevator cage that descends into the earth. A few platoons of barracks and prefab sheds cluster around the area, tool depots, a first aid station, and the overseer's office looming over it all like a little fortress with steel walls and gun slits. I spy a couple of armed guards on the roof, silhouettes with autoguns slung over shoulders. They watch us gather with the disinterest of men bored of looking at the same scene every day. Emperor forbid the laborers get any ideas. Those guards are there to remind us our lives are cheap, but not ours to take. We line up in neat rows, each crew standing together. I find myself in the middle of Crew 3 Gamma, about 20 of us, including Joran to my left, Old Seb on my right, and a few others I know by nickname more than real name. Ratty, Big John, Sella, Twin. He's missing an eye, ironically. Our foreman, a sour-faced man named Bren, does a head count on his slate. He nods once, satisfied we're all present. Latecomers will face his wrath later, but for now, none of our crew is missing. That's good. I'd hate to see someone get flogged before breakfast. Overseer Calto himself stands on a metal dais at the front of the platform, hands clasped behind his back. He's a tall, gaunt man in a long leather stormcoat, its high collar trimmed with fur, probably from an off-world creature. Nothing survives on this planet except human misery and some mutant rats. Calto's got a bionic eye that glows red as he surveys us, and I swear that mechanical gaze lingers on each of us in turn. Judging, always judging. At his side is Preacher Arlson, the Ministorum priest assigned to this site. Arlson wears his threadbare ecclesiarchy robes over thick flak armor. A practical choice given the number of accidents that can happen to a priest if he preaches the wrong sermon to hungry miners. I've seen him at the infrequent worship services, droning on about the Emperor's grace, while we try not to fall asleep on the benches. The muster is as thrilling as ever. Calto clears his throat and speaks into a voice amplifier built into the dais. Third shift. You will be working Section 12D today. Quota is 500 kilos of raw adamantite ore per crew by shift's end. A transport shuttle arrived last night, so we are behind schedule on loading. That means double output expected. Those who fail to meet quota, he pauses, a thin smile on his lips, will spend the night in the pens contemplating their lack of commitment. The Emperor provides for those who provide for him. I feel Joran tense beside me. 500 kilos per crew is brutal, nearly impossible given the difficulty of hewing adamantite from the rock. That's why it's usually set around 300. Kalto just essentially doubled our burden. There's a ripple of dismayed murmurs in the assembled miners, quickly stifled when one of the guards on the roof above cocks his autogun demonstratively. Additionally, Kalto continues, his voice casual as if discussing weather, a new seam was uncovered in the lower tunnels. Crew 3 Gamma, that's us, will assist the Mechanicus survey team in opening Shaft 13. It's probably just an extension of the existing vein. Follow Tech Adept Yale's instructions, and do not touch anything unless ordered. Any deviation from protocol or incidents of impiety in the presence of our honored Adeptus Mechanicus colleagues will be severely punished. You all know the rules. His red eye flashes again. Ah, great. So after lugging ore, we get the fun of playing usher for a cogboy in some uncharted tunnel. If I believed in luck, I'd say ours just took a turn for the worse. Mechanicus survey means something's unusual down there, either a promising find or something hazardous, or both. And anything hazardous in a mine usually translates to more dead miners. Preacher Arlson steps forward now, raising a gilded Aquila icon. It's time for the morning devotion. We all dutifully bow our heads. Some, like Joran, do it earnestly, others just to avoid attention. I angle my gaze down and try to look pious. "O Emperor, see us here in the depths," Arlson intones, voice practiced and resonant. "Grant us the strength to labor for your glory. Let our blows against the unyielding stone be as righteous in your eyes as blows struck against the enemy. Preserve us from the darkness below and guide us back to the light of day. For we are but humble servants doing his work." A collective rumble of "Amen" issues from the crowd. I mumble along. The Emperor's a busy man, I'm sure, and it's hard to imagine his divine gaze fixed on our little pit of hell. But if he is watching, perhaps he got a good chuckle from hearing us equate mining with smiting the enemy. I keep that thought to myself. That's the kind of thing you really don't say aloud. "All right, you lot. You heard the overseer. Get to it." Foreman Bren barks at our crew once the prayer is done. He gestures with his thumb toward the elevator cage. Time to descend into the deeps and start hammering away at that impossible quota. With a groan of metal and a shower of rust flakes, the elevator's gates slide open. We pile in shoulder to shoulder, a packed mass of miners clutching tools and lunch pails. I stand near the front, one hand gripping a rail as the cage begins its shaky descent into the mine shaft. Above us, the gray daylight, such as it is, shrinks away. The walls around turn to raw rock lit by our helmet lamps and flickering cage lights. Down we go, leaving behind the last hint of open air, down into the familiar embrace of darkness and industry. Joran elbows me lightly. "Double rations for double work, eh? Think Kalto will part with an extra protein bar?" He jokes bitterly. I smirk. Sure, right after he grows a second head and sings a heretic anthem. Joran snorts laughter through his nose, earning a scowl from Foreman Bren. The elevator jerks to a halt at level 12 with a teeth-rattling clunk. We all brace ourselves. One day this contraption will snap and send us to an early grave. But not today, it seems. The gates screech open to reveal a cavernous tunnel, walls and ceiling reinforced by massive plasteel supports. Conduit cables snake along the rock, powering lights and drills deeper in. The air down here is thick with humidity and the omnipresent mining dust that dances in our lamp beams. "Let's move, Gamma. Tools up and march on," Bren hollers. We file out into the tunnel, our boots crunching on loose gravel. In the distance, the roar of heavy machinery echoes. The shift before us is already cutting away at the ore face. It's a sound I know so well I sometimes hear it in my dreams. The grind of the rock borers, the hiss of steam, the thump of ore haulers dumping their loads. I take a deep breath through my rebreather. Stale air, tinged with ozone and the faint sulfur stink that clings to adamantite ore. I can taste the metal on my tongue. My stomach growls, reminding me I skipped the nutrient broth earlier in the scramble to gear up. Too late now. Shouldering my drill, I follow the crew toward our designated section, another day officially begun in the depths of Makenna 7. Just another day, I tell myself. But deep down, some gut feeling twists uncomfortably. Maybe it's the double quota. Maybe the prospect of opening a new shaft 13 of all numbers. Or maybe it's just that I woke up on the wrong side of the bunk. I push it down. In the mines, there's no time for superstition or foreboding. You focus on the next rock in front of you, the next hour, the next swing of the pick. Anything beyond that is a luxury or a curse. If only I had known what that day truly held, perhaps I would have turned and run, quota be damned. But I didn't run. I descended with everyone else, oblivious to the cracks forming beneath our feet and the darkness ready to seep in. In the cramped gloom of Shaft 12D, we began our work, just as we had done countless times before, never suspecting it might be the last normal day of our lives. We set to work with the practiced rhythm of men and women who have done this all their lives. Our crew fans out along the rock face of Section 12D. Joran and I lug a plasma drill to a new cut point, while Twin and Sella start positioning support struts. The tunnel is already scarred from previous shifts, walls chipped and blackened from blasting charges, piles of rubble waiting to be hauled. Over the comm bead in my ear, a cheap device with constant static, Foreman Bren assigns tasks in his usual charm. Mirael, Joran, get that drill on the east wall. Big John, Ratty, clear the debris by the rail. Move it. Quota won't fill itself. The moment I squeeze the drill's activator, it roars to life, kicking against my arms. A stream of hot sparks and pulverized stone sprays out as the plasma bit chews into the wall. The noise is deafening, even through my ear protectors, a deep, bone-shaking grind that merges with the cacophony of other drills and the distant thump of hydraulic hammers. I brace and lean in, guiding the drill in a slow horizontal slice. My muscles burn. Controlling a heavy drill is more wrestling match than skilled labor. Joran stands by with a stabilizer bar, helping me keep it steady. The heat from the plasma bit turns the sweat on my face to steam inside my mask. Minutes stretch into an hour or two. It's hard to tell time down here. We work in bursts, drill, pause, break rock, set charges, blast, then shovel the broken ore into waiting carts. The air grows thick with dust and the tang of ozone from the plasma. By the time we stop for a brief respite, my back is aching and my hands tremble with exhaustion. Old Seb is working not far from us, swinging a power pick at stubborn chunks the drills can't dislodge. I catch his eye as I shut off the drill for a breather. He gives me a wink and a thumbs up, though his face is drawn and sweat-soaked. Emperor, the old man's got grit. Should have retired 10 years ago if anyone ever actually retired from this life. Foreman Bren paces behind us, inspecting progress. He's muttering into his slate, likely recording our output. We might actually be making decent headway on the ore. Maybe fear of Calto's punishment lit a fire under everyone. I'm about to help Joran swap out the drill's coolant canister when a sharp crack echoes through the tunnel. At first, I think it's another crew setting off a blasting charge ahead of schedule. Then the ground shudders beneath my boots. "Watch it," someone shouts. A split second later, part of the ceiling at the far end of 12D comes crashing down in an explosion of dust and noise. Rock and metal strut pieces rain on the crew working there. I see a figure, one of Big John's haul team, get knocked flat by a falling chunk the size of a throne gelt. Chaos erupts, the figurative kind at least. Coughing and shouts fill the tunnel. My heart leaps into my throat. "Cave in." "Back, fall back," Bren hollers, waving his arms. But the dust is so thick now, it's like a fog in our lamplight. I pull my rebreather tighter and squint, trying to locate Joran, who was just beside me. I find him tugging at something. Emperor's mercy. He's trying to pull a slab off of someone. I rush over to help. Together we heave and roll the debris enough to drag the miner out. It's Selah. Her leg is a mangled mess and she's unconscious, or worse. Blood darkens her gray coverall. Joran lifts her under the arms and I grab her legs, ignoring the ugly angle of her left shin. We carry her away from the collapse zone as fast as we can, stumbling over rubble. Behind us I hear coughing and wheezing, other survivors crawling out. Twin emerges with a gash on his forehead and wild eyes, dragging Big John by the collar. Big John is limp and I can't tell if he's breathing. Dust clogs my filter. I can taste grit in my mouth. My ears ring from the crash, but we manage to get clear of the worst of it. Foreman Bren and a couple of others are already there, organizing a head count. Through the haze, I see old Seb stumble out, leaning on his pick for support. The dust begins to settle. What a damned mess. A section of the tunnel roof about 10 meters long came down. The support struts must have given way, maybe microquakes, or maybe just shoddy installation in the first place. Emperor knows maintenance is a joke out here. I lay Selah down gently. Her breathing is shallow, but at least she's alive, moaning softly now. Joran is already cutting a strip from his sleeve to bind a wound on her scalp. Twin is kneeling next to Big John, who is not moving at all. The big man's arm is bent unnaturally. "Anyone seen Ratty?" coughs one of the others. We look around. No sign of him. A cold dread fills me. Ratty was working right under the collapse. Without hesitation, old Seb turns and hobbles back toward the debris. The crazy old fracker. He's going back in. I shout after him, "Seb, wait!" But he waves a hand dismissively. "The lad's still in there," Seb calls back, disappearing into the swirling dust beyond our lights. Emperor on Earth. I exchange a glance with Joran. His eyes are bloodshot from dust, but I know what he's thinking because I'm thinking it too. We can't let the old man go alone. We dash after Seb. The dust is clearing just enough that we can see a heap of collapsed rock and a twisted, broken support beam jutting out like a spear. And there, a hand sticking out from beneath a slab. Seb is already at it, straining to shift chunks of rock off what must be Ratty's arm. Joran and I join him, working frantically. Adrenaline lends a desperate strength to my limbs. We manage to pry up a piece, then another. There, Ratty, half buried, face covered in gray dust, eyes closed. Not far from him lies another miner, crushed beyond recognition, likely one of the other crew members who was in the wrong place. I force myself not to look too hard at that. "He's alive," Seb wheezes. Sure enough, Ratty gasps suddenly, coughing up dust. We haul the remaining debris off his torso and pull him free. He howls in pain. His left leg is crushed flat. "Emperor, there's nothing below the knee but pulp and a boot full of red mush." Joran grimaces and immediately cinches a tourniquet around Ratty's thigh with his belt. Ratty is in shock, thank the throne. or he'd be screaming worse. We half carry, half drag Ratty back to where the others are. The whole crew is gathered now, faces drawn in the harsh light. Bren stands there, tapping furiously on his data slate with a scowl. 2 dead, 3 injured, he mutters, presumably to the log. Then louder, for us. Collapse is cleared. Those not hurt get back to work. I stare at him, incredulous. Get back to work. Sella is still unconscious. Ratty might bleed out. Big John. Thrown. Big John is likely dead. Twin is shaking him gently to no avail. We just lost good people, and Bren wants us to pick up the drills like it's nothing? A few others hesitate too. Twin rises from Big John's side, blood on his hands, and he looks ready to explode. Foreman, we gotta get these people topside, to the Medicae, he shouts. Bren's eyes narrow. There is no Medicae here, you know that, he snaps. True, we have a first aid station at best. Serious cases usually just don't make it. I've radioed the overseer. The tech priests will send down servitors to clear the rest and tend to any survivors. He says that last word like it inconveniences him. Twin's face contorts. Serve the Emperor, he spits bitterly, citing the common refrain we've all been fed. By digging our own graves, is it? Big John is dead. Sela and Ratty won't last the hour without proper aid. You expect us to keep swinging picks like nothing happened? A murmur of agreement ripples around. This is dangerous. Open defiance. I step back instinctively, not wanting to draw Bren's focus. The foreman's upper lip curls. He's about to bark something when a new voice interrupts. Is there a problem here? Mechanicus tech adept Yil glides into view, flanked by 2 lumbering servitors. I didn't even hear them approach over the ringing in my ears. Yil is a spindly figure draped in red robes, with several mechadendrites, metal tentacle limbs, writhing slowly behind him. His face is mostly hidden by a rebreather mask and optical lenses. The servitors clank forward, vat-grown muscle and steel, their blank eyes taking in the scene without emotion. Bren stiffens. No problem, tech adept. Minor collapse. Under control. Yil's head rotates, the optical mechadendrite focusing on the collapsed section and the wounded. He emits a series of binaric clicks. One servitor tromps over to Sela and begins administering a coagulant from a built-in injector. The other simply starts picking up heavy debris and tossing it aside like children's blocks, clearing the blockage. I notice none of the servitors move to help Ratty or Big John. Perhaps they triaged that Big John's lifeless and Ratty is beyond help. Ratty has gone pale, unconscious now. Joran still holds the belt tight on his leg, his own sleeve soaked in blood. Yil steps nearer, his robe just barely not brushing the dusty floor. Foreman, proceed with assignment. I require assistance opening the passage to Shaft 13 as scheduled. His tone is monotone, synthetic, and utterly devoid of concern. Bren bobs his head. Of course, Adept. He looks at us. Crew 3 Gamma, on your feet. The Mechanicus needs volunteers to cut through to the new shaft. Mirael, Joran, Seb. He points, then picks 2 more whose names I don't even know well. You 5, come with us. The rest of you, back to quota work on 12D, now! Twin is still kneeling by Big John's body, shaking with fury or grief or both. Bren adds coldly, that includes you, Minor, unless you'd like to join your friend there permanently. The armed threat is implicit. I watch as 2 other crewmen pry Twin away, murmuring to calm him down. The rage in his eyes could melt plasteel, but he stomps off toward the remaining work area. Others move too, albeit slowly, casting uneasy glances at us, volunteers, and at the wounded being tended, if you can call it that, by the servitor. I don't want to leave Sela or Ratty, or even Big John's corpse lying in the dirt, but what choice do I have? When the Mechanicus calls, you jump. Old Seb is at Ratty's side, making the sign of the Akala over the dying man's chest and whispering a half-remembered emperor's prayer. Seb's face is stony, but tears make tracks in the dust on his cheeks. Seb knows, like all of us do, Ratty won't last. It's a miracle he's still clinging on. Joran touches Seb's shoulder gently. Seb, they've chosen us to go with them. He doesn't say what we're all thinking. If we don't obey, we'll get shot or worse. Seb presses his lips together and gives a single nod. He closes Ratty's eyes even though the poor lad isn't dead yet. But maybe it's better to imagine he won't wake to more pain. Then the old man stands, joints cracking, and steps over the rubble to join us. The servitor continues its work, oblivious to the human tragedy. We assemble by the collapsed rock wall where Yil has set up a portable scanner array. It casts a greenish glow on the wall as it sweeps in slow arcs. Tech adept Yil chitters something in Binaric to Bren, who glances at us. Follow the adept's directives, and maybe we'll get out of this hole on schedule, he says, voice lacking any comfort. Yil turns to us, a mechanical whining accompanying the movement. The surveyor spirit has identified a hollow behind this partition, he drones. We will breach it. You will clear debris and secure the area. Secure the area? With what, our good looks and charm? We're miners, not security. And what might we need to secure it from? I exchange a quick look with Joran. He raises an eyebrow. Without further ado, Yil directs a servo arm and with surprising speed begins cutting into the rock with an integrated lass cutter. Sparks fly. We stand back, shielding our eyes. He carves an almost perfect door-shaped outline into the rock face. The precise laser does, in a minute, what would have taken us an hour of drilling. Segments of rock thud to the ground as the outline completes, leaving a rough-hewn opening about 2 meters high. A rush of air escapes from the darkness beyond, stale, cold, with an oddly sweet smell that sets my nerves on edge. My lamp beam cuts into the void. I half expected to find just another stretch of ore seam or an old tunnel from previous operations. But beyond the breach is a natural-looking cavern that slopes slightly downward. Atmospheric composition. Acceptable. Yil clicks after consulting a readout. He steps forward, unholstering a strange multi-limbed device from under his robes, likely some scanning instrument. Come, illuminate and observe. Bren nudges me, so I raise my lamp and step gingerly through the new opening, leading with the light. Joran and the others follow, spread out slightly. Old Seb is right behind me, his power pick still in hand. The cavern is roughly cylindrical, like a lava tube, perhaps. The walls glisten with moisture or some mineral sheen. Our lights catch reflections off strange crystal formations jutting here and there. Under different circumstances, I might find it beautiful, glittering veins in the rock, clusters of quartz or something. But there's a heaviness here that makes me shiver, despite the labor sweat on my skin cooling rapidly. Yil's mechanical eyes whir and focus, scanning the cave floor. There are signs that we're not the first to step here. The dust is disturbed in places, and I think I spot an old drill bit, half buried, rusted to hell. Perhaps this was an old abandoned tunnel from decades ago, sealed off. Old Seb kneels with a grunt, picking up something from the ground. He wipes it and holds it to my lamp. It's a small medallion, caked in grime. On it, I can just make out a faded design. Looks like the Imperial Aquila, but oddly stylized and... No, maybe it's just corrosion making it look off. Seb pockets it quietly without the adept noticing. Yil, meanwhile, is fixated on one wall where the scanner pings softly. Trace readings of warp residuals. Minimal, he mutters to himself, probably thinking none of us understand. Warp residuals? My heart skips. That word warp is never good. Could just be background, though. We're not far from the cursed Eye of Terror in galactic terms. That stain's influence ebbs into many places. One of the other miners, a wiry man we call Scabs, suddenly yelps, nearly slipping. "Throne!" he curses. Our lights swing to him. He stumbled over what looks like a set of old bones. Sure enough, on the ground lies a partial human skeleton, clad in tattered remains of a mining suit not unlike ours, but of an outdated pattern. The skull grins up from the dirt, jaw askew. Beside it lies a rusted pickaxe. Old Seb makes the sign of the Aquila over his chest, whispering a quick prayer for the departed. I'm about to do the same when Yil clanks over and examines the bones with clinical interest. Historical casualty, he pronounces. Approximate time of death, 78 years ago, given mineral deposition. Cause of death likely dehydration or suffocation. Relevant to current mission. Negligible. I feel a chill that has nothing to do with the cave's air. Someone got trapped in here long ago and died alone in the dark. Possibly a cave-in sealed them. The thought that this poor sod's fate could easily be any of ours any day isn't lost on me. Joran mutters quietly, "Lucky bastard got out of double quota," in a macabre joke. It startles a short, nervous laugh out of me before I clamp my mouth shut. Seb shoots us a disapproving glance, but there's also a hint of agreement in his tired eyes. We venture further in. The cavern narrows, then opens into a wider chamber ahead. My lamp catches something on the ground. Rails. Ancient cart rails, half buried in sediment. So this was definitely an old working, maybe before this mine was reorganized. Why was it abandoned? The answer may be on the far side of the chamber. As we fan out, our lights reveal a cave-in blocking any further passage. A ton of rock collapsed here, likely sealing this section, which is why it never showed on current maps. That must be what trapped the poor skeleton we found. Yil's scanning device beeps rapidly at the rockfall. The adept hovers over it, tentacles fussing. Significant adamantite traces beyond obstruction. This collapse sealed off a rich vein. His tone almost sounds pleased in that flat mechanical way. Of course, more adamantite, exactly what the Mechanicus and Administratum love. He turns to us. This vein must be accessed. The machine god wills the recovery of these resources, by which he means time to clear this and exploit the vein. Even if we just lost people in one collapse, here's another waiting to happen. I swallow hard, glancing at the unstable edges of the cave-in. Bren seems to have regained his bluster now that the immediate crisis is past. "You heard the tech adept. We'll blast this rockfall open. Mirael, set charges at these stress points." He points at a few spots on the obstruction that look, well, like rocks. I nod mechanically. From habit, I start pulling the small demolition charges from my pack and handing a couple to Joran and Seb. Normally, we'd have a specialized blaster handle this, but guess what? That was Big John's secondary job. We plant the explosives carefully, wedging them into crevices Yil highlights with a laser pointer. As I'm pressing a detonator cap in, I notice a strange marking on a large boulder. Lines of what might be paint or dye, very faded. I peer closer. It looks like a crude symbol, but I can't make it out. Could be just mineral streaks. Seb sees me puzzling and grunts. Miner's mark, maybe. Some crews mark tunnels with sigils. Possibly, but something about it unsettles me. Before I can think further, Bren calls out, "All right, fall back to the tunnel entrance. Fire in the hole on my mark." We retreat back the way we came, not too far. This isn't a huge chamber. Bren triggers the detonator. A concussive boom blasts our ears, and a burst of dust and rock fragments shoot out of the cavern ahead. I duck behind an outcrop. After a moment, the dust starts to settle. We move in again to see the result. The old collapse has been partially cleared. A rough opening now leads into another dark space beyond. The rock face around the gap is cracked and unstable, but Yill doesn't care. He's already moving forward, shining his own green-tinted light through. I feel a sudden nausea as we approach the new gap. It could just be the after effects of the blast or dust in my lungs. But for a moment, the shadows beyond almost seem to twist in my vision. Old Seb mumbles a prayer under his breath. Even Bren is unusually quiet. We step through. The space beyond. It's no natural cavern. My breath catches. It's an excavated chamber, but not like any mining tunnel I've seen. The walls are too smooth, almost polished, and engraved with shallow carvings. Our lights play over the carvings. They are abstract, swirling shapes and lined patterns that make my eyes ache if I stare too long. In the dust on the floor, there are more skeletons, at least half a dozen, arranged in a circle as if they fell while gathered here. Their bones are strangely scored, like something etched or gnawed at them. At the center of the chamber stands an obelisk of black stone, about waist-high and covered in those same swirling etchings. It glints with a dull reflection of our lights. "By the throne! What is this?" Joran whispers, voice trembling slightly. Yill is the first to approach the obelisk. A mechadendrite extends to almost caress it. "Unidentified xenoarchaeological or heretical artifact," he says calmly. "Possibly chaos-tainted. Log Alpha. Investigating." Chaos-tainted? The words send a spike of fear through my gut. Seb backs away, clutching his Aquila pendant and silently moving his lips in prayer. I can't blame him. Bren actually takes a step back too. His face is pale under the grime. "Tech Adept, protocol requires we inform the authorities," he begins. Yill cuts him off with a harsh burst of binary cant. "Inapplicable. My authority is sufficient. Remain still." One of his tentacles clicks a rune on the obelisk's surface. The air suddenly crackles with an unseen energy. I feel all the hairs on my arms stand. Joran gasps as his lamp flickers. I instinctively stumble back. Something is wrong, a pressure in my skull, like a silent scream with no sound. The obelisk's carvings briefly flare with a faint, sickly green light. Yill reels, as much as a half-machine man can, and pulls back his appendage. "Warp resonance confirmed," he rasps. "Small magnitude, no immediate threat." Easy for him to say. I'm about ready to void my stomach from the wave of nausea and panic that rolled through me. I realize I'm shaking. Emperor's bones, this is beyond any of us. Why is this thing down here? Who put it here? Those miners. Did they stumble on it and die because of it? Or were they doing something with it? Before any of us can collect ourselves, Yill turns sharply. "This site is now under Mechanicus jurisdiction. Foreman, remove your crew. Seal the area behind you. Speak of this to no one. The penalty for breaching Adeptus Mechanicus quarantine is severe." His lenses glare at each of us in turn. We nod dumbly. What else can we do? A secret in the dark, one that stinks of heresy. I'm more than happy to leave it behind. We retreat, practically tripping over our feet to get out of that carved chamber. My mind races. I catch a final glimpse of Yill as we exit. He is already chanting some Binharic litany, examining the obelisk with devices. The servitors stand at the ready, oblivious to the unnatural dread lingering in the air. Back through the cavern we go, past the dead miner and the rails and crystals. Through the doorway we cut. Bren has us pile up the blasted rock and add additional charges to reseal Shaft 13's entrance. I'm only too glad to obey. I never want to see that cursed chamber again. We blow the opening closed from this side with another thud. Dust billows. When it settles, only a rough scar in the wall and a few shifted boulders remain to show where we opened a door to somewhere best left forgotten. No one speaks as we trudge back to the main tunnel. What would we even say? That we found something possibly chaotic and the cog boy claimed it? And those bones. Emperor, protect us. When we reach 12D again, the mood has gone from grim to nightmarish. The rest of the crew have resumed work, but there's a hollow look in their eyes. In the short time we were gone, Sella and Ratty are gone, presumably taken up top by a lift, if they lived that long. Big John's body has been covered with a tarp and left by the wall for later retrieval. Twin and the others swing their tools with mechanical motions, faces set in anger or despair. I see that 2 armed mine guards have arrived, likely to ensure compliance after the accident. Joran and I silently take up our drill again. Seb goes back to help where Ratty would have been. Bren lurks, overseeing as if nothing happened, but everything did happen. We lost good people, and beyond that wall we sealed, something foul lies hidden by a Mechanicus quarantine. I want to scream or cry or both. Instead, I grit my teeth and drill, focus on the next rock, the next inch of ore. Yet a whisper of unease curls in my mind like the dust in my lungs. A line from the miner's litany comes back to me. From the darkness, temptation. From the ground, salvation. I've recited it 1,000 times. Now I wonder if we've dug up something that should have stayed buried. We work until the end of shift klaxon finally echoes through the shaft. I'm bone-weary and mentally shattered. The quota? Emperor knows if we hit it. Bren's scowl suggests probably not, but even he seems too shaken to berate us much. Or perhaps he doesn't want any talk about what else happened. We gather tools and our wounded pride forming up to ascend. Twin insists on carrying Big John's shrouded corpse into the lift, a silent gesture of respect. No one stops him. We owe at least that much. As the elevator carries us upward, silence reigns. Only the hum of the lift motor and the distant rumble of other shifts at work accompany us. Dust-covered, blood-stained, and exhausted, we stand shoulder to shoulder, each alone with our thoughts. Joran catches my eye. Through the grime on his face, I see fear, anger, and something else. A question, perhaps. I wish I had an answer. I don't. When we reach the surface platform, the sky is a dismal dark gray twilight. Our shift is done, but the events of the day hang over us like the leaden clouds. As we step off the lift, I half expect Overseer Calto to be waiting with a reprimand for low output or some sanctimonious platitude. But he's nowhere in sight. Only a few faceless guards and a Medicae servitor that quickly claims Sella's stretcher. She's still alive, Emperor be praised, or perhaps not given the care she'll get, and trundles off. Big John is taken away by 2 laborers from another crew, headed for the body pit or the Emperor knows where. Twin follows until a guard barks him back. We rank and file are herded back toward the hab blocks. My limbs feel like plastile beams, heavy and stiff. Every cough sends a bolt of pain through my lungs. Today was something. And yet, the worst of it might not be the cave-in or even those we lost. It's what we found. I glance at old Seb walking beside me, his eyes downcast. I wonder if he's thinking about that chamber too, or just mourning. As we enter the dimly lit corridors of the hab, no one has the energy to talk. But the anger is there. I can feel it simmering among us. In the clench of Twin's jaw, in the dark scowl on Joran's face that I've never seen before, in the tears that one miner furtively wipes away as he peels off from the group toward the infirmary. This daily life on our mining world has always been a kind of slow death. But today it showed its teeth and something tells me it wasn't an isolated bite. The cracks are getting wider, in the mine, in us. Back at my bunk, I sink down, too tired to even strip off my dust-caked gear just yet. Joran sits heavily on the bunk beside me, running a hand over his bald head, leaving streaks of dirt. Neither of us speaks for a long moment. What is there to say? Tough shift doesn't cover it. Finally, he mutters, "This can't go on." It's so low I almost miss it. I glance at him. He's staring at the floor. Coming from pious, dutiful Joran, those 4 words carry weight. I nod slowly. No, it can't. In that unspoken agreement, something shifts between us. A decision unmade, but looming. As the hab lights flicker to their dim night cycle, I close my eyes and see again the silhouette of that black obelisk and the glow of collapsing rock. The darkness of the pit followed us up, clinging to our souls. We endure. We always have. But how much longer can we before something breaks? Perhaps sooner than any of us imagine. Quietly, after lights out, the barracks are filled with the soft snores and coughs of exhausted workers. But in certain corners, whispers are trading like contraband, whispers of anger, fear, and dangerous hope. I'm sitting on my bunk, fiddling with my dented tin cup, when Joran leans in. "Mirael," he whispers, eyes darting to make sure no eavesdroppers. "A few of us are meeting later, off the record." I raise an eyebrow. "Meeting?" He nods. "Down by the old slag tunnel behind C Block. It's, well, let's call it a remembrance for the fallen." His tone suggests much more than that. I glance around. Old Seb is already snoring softly on his bunk, utterly spent. Twin is awake, sitting upright and staring into space with an unlit glow stick between his fingers. Others near us seem to pay no attention. "Who organized this?" I murmur. Joran shrugs too casually. "Dunno. Just heard that if people want to share a drink to honor Big John and the rest and talk freely, that's the place to be." He meets my gaze. "We have to talk about today. All of it." I know what he means, not just the deaths, but what we found. I feel a twinge of fear. "Joran, the mechanicus said—" "I don't care what that coghead said," he hisses quietly. "Something's very wrong here, Mirael, more than usual, if there's a chance to do something, or at least to understand." His earnest, troubled face softens my caution. "Emperor, forgive me. I'm curious too, and angry, and scared. We both almost died today, and for what? To line some distant noble's coffers? To unearth horrors best left buried?" I nod slowly. "All right, I'll go." A faint relief passes over Joran's face. He pats my shoulder. "Midnight shift change when the patrols swap. Less chance they'll notice a few missing for a bit." It feels like I'm committing a crime just by walking out of the hab after lights out. Maybe I am, technically. Unauthorized gatherings are probably against some regulation, but the thrill of disobedience is undercut by anxiety. If we're caught, best case we get flogged or thrown in the pens. Worst case labeled heretics or rebels. That can earn a bullet or servitor conversion. I slip through the back door of our hab block into the alley between prefab units. The air is biting cold, a light drizzle of chemical-laced sleet drifting down. My breath fogs the air. I tug my coat tighter and skulk through the shadows, keeping to the blind spots between luminators. The slag tunnel Joran mentioned is an old access passage where waste tailings were once dumped. It's long disused, replaced by a newer conveyor system, so it's a perfect quiet spot away from prying eyes. As I approach, I hear the low murmur of voices echoing softly. At first, my heart pounds. Emperor, if it's the patrol, but no, it's multiple voices, whispering, agitated. The tunnel entrance is a corrugated metal hatch set into a mound of spoil. It's partially open. I duck inside. Glow globes, dimmed and half-shielded, cast just enough light to see about a dozen figures huddled in the tunnel, which stretches maybe 20 meters and ends in a collapsed heap of slag. The smell of mildew and old engine oil lingers. I recognize some immediately. Twin is here, leaning against a wall with arms crossed, that perpetual scowl on his face. Scabs, the miner from earlier, is pacing a bit, rubbing his hands. Sayla's there too, surprisingly. She's hobbling slightly, but Alib a bandage around her head and leg. She must have dragged herself out of infirmary for this. A couple others from neighboring crews I know by sight, if not name. And Joran, who gives me a small nod as I enter. But at the center of the group stands someone I didn't expect. Preacher Arlson. I freeze just inside the hatch. The Ministorum priest? He's the one who organized this? My first thought, this is a trap or a sanctioned memorial maybe. But no, the mood in here isn't exactly prayer circle. Arlson looks different. His priestly robes are absent. Instead, he wears a simple worker's jacket over his flak armor, hood drawn up. His normally neat hair is disheveled, eyes a touch wild in the gloom. In his hand, I see the glint of a flask, which he raises. "Come in, brother Mirael," Arlson says quietly, not in his usual booming sermon voice. More like a co-conspirator than a cleric. We were just sharing a toast for those we lost. The others acknowledge me with tired nods or murmurs. Twin hands me a small tin cup and motions to Arlson, who pours a finger of some bootleg amasec from his flask. I swallow dryly and take the cup. This is surreal. Sipping contraband liquor with the priest who, only hours ago, was leading us in dutiful prayer. But the times are out of joint. "To Big John," Arlson says softly. He raises his flask. The others echo, "Big John," and drink. We follow with other names. Ratty, though we don't know if he died, likely he did by now. Learn. Another who died in the collapse, apparently the one I saw crushed. And even Old Pete, a miner from a different crew who fell down a shaft last week. Each name a soft chorus of respect and a burning swallow of cheap alcohol. The liquor sears my throat, but spreads warmth in my belly. It dulls the edge of the day just a little. After a moment of reverent silence, Arlson speaks again, voice low but passionate. "They tell us suffering is noble, that our toil pleases the Emperor. But was it noble how John died? Crushed under rock because they pushed us too hard? Did it please the Emperor that young Ratty bled out on a cold tunnel floor for want of a medici?" Sella lets out a muffled sob at that, covering her mouth. Another miner puts a comforting arm around her. Twin snarls, "If that's nobility, the Emperor can shove it." A shock goes through me hearing such blasphemy openly voiced. A year ago, someone would have decked Twin for that or reported him. Now, no one flinches. Even Preacher Arlson gives a grim nod. "I served the Imperial Creed for 20 standard years," Arlson continues quietly. "I've been on half a dozen worlds as a dutiful missionary, and I tell you," he pauses, surveying us, "the God Emperor's grace is a story we tell ourselves to endure the unendurable." Scabs, the wiry miner, nods vigorously. "All the Emperor's blessings in the world won't fix that shaft or bring back the dead. We're on our own down here." A chorus of assent meets that. Even Joran, staunch Emperor fearing Joran, lowers his gaze, silent. Arlson takes a step toward us, his eyes gleaming in the gloom. "It is time we face the truth. The Imperium sees us as nothing more than expendable tools. We were taught to love the Emperor, to trust in his plan, but what plan is this?" He gestures at the tunnel around. Endless drudgery until we die? Our lives are coined to be spent for someone else's glory. Is that just? Is that right? No, Sela whispers, bitterness lacing her voice. It's not. She gingerly touches the bandage on her head. My brother died in a cave-in last year. We didn't even get his body. They just sealed the drift and left him entombed. No funeral, nothing. Just a dock in our crew's pay for lost equipment he had on him. Her face crumples, tears slipping down. Twin curses under his breath and punches the metal wall with a clang, not even feeling the pain in his anger. Arlson raises a hand gently. Friends, we have all borne these wounds in silence for too long, but no longer. There is another path, other powers in this universe that listen to the forgotten and the downtrodden. At the word powers, a prickle runs up my spine. Here it comes, I think. The turn from righteous grievance to dangerous ground. Joran looks around warily. What do you mean, other powers? Arlson's voice drops to almost a reverent hush. I mean the truth I have come to know. The God Emperor, in his shattered state upon the golden throne, does not hear our pleas. But there are gods that will, gods of the warp, ancient and mighty, who have no love for the Imperium and its cruelty. They offer us strength, hope, even vengeance, if we have the courage to take it. The tunnel falls silent except for the distant drip of water. My heart thuds in my chest. This is outright heresy. Speaking of the warp gods, the chaos gods, as ones to call upon. A few years ago I'd have recoiled or run, but now I'm frozen, conflicted. Part of me is terrified. Chaos is damnation, corruption, horror. We've all heard the stories. Yet another part remembers the cold indifference in Kalto's bionic eye, the way Yil toyed with that warp-tainted obelisk, the way our prayers have done nothing. That part of me is curious, maybe even tempted by the mention of hope and vengeance. Twin breaks the silence with a harsh laugh. Ha, so that's it then. Sell our souls to demons? You got a line to them, preacher? His tone is sarcastic, but there's an undercurrent of interest. Arlson looks at Twin evenly. I was like you, skeptical, fearful. But I have seen proof, visions in my dreams, since coming to this cursed world. We all feel the warp storms out there, even if faintly. The veil is thin, and something has been whispering to me through it, guiding me. Sailor gasps softly. Scabs rubs his arms like he's cold. Joran furrows his brow deeply. I simply listen, holding my breath. At first, I thought it was the Emperor testing me, Arlson continues. But these whispers, they spoke of liberation, of throwing off our oppressors, of making the galaxy burn in retribution for 10,000 years of slaves' tears. The Emperor would never sanction such thoughts. But the more I heard, the more I realized, why not? Why shouldn't the tyrants bleed for once? Why shouldn't we claim a little power for ourselves? My mouth is dry. My rational mind screams, this is madness. But another voice inside, quieter, asks, what if he's right? What do we have to lose? Arlson reaches into his coat and pulls something out, a small book bound in cracked leather. He holds it up gingerly. I found this in the possessions of a dead man in the underhive on Seferis Secundus years ago. I confiscated it as heresy back then, but never destroyed it. Now I know why. It speaks of the gods of chaos and the freedom they offer those bold enough to take it. It has guided me here, to you tonight. He flips to a page and reads in a hushed tone, presumably translating from some archaic script. In the final days, the meek shall find new strength in the dark, and the chains of the false lords shall be broken. His eyes shine. We are the meek, my friends, and the dark. It is terrifying, yes, but it is also powerful. That power could be ours if we reach for it. A shudder goes through me. I'm half expecting a demon to materialize as he chants from that book. None does, not yet. But the air itself feels thick, as if the shadows in the corners have grown deeper. Scab steps closer to the priest. I don't know about any gods, but I know I'm sick of living like an animal. If there's a chance, any chance, to change things, I want in. Sela, wiping her tears, nods quietly. I lost everyone I care about to this place. If there are powers that can help us, even if it's dangerous, isn't it worth it? Twin is uncharacteristically silent, jaw clenched. He doesn't speak, but he hasn't stormed out either. Joran, however, is trembling, with anger or fear or both. This is heresy, he says, but his voice is uncertain. Chaos. Chaos is what the archenemy uses. It destroys worlds, corrupts souls. How can that be any better than what we have? Arlson fixes him with a gentle look. Brother, I understand. We've been taught to fear chaos as the great evil. But consider, who taught us that? The empire that grinds us down. Of course they demonize those who would overthrow them. He closes the book and places a hand over his heart. Chaos is change. Chaos is the fury of the oppressed made manifest. It's only evil from the perspective of those in power. For people like us, it might just be salvation. My mind reels. He is charismatic, I'll give him that, twisting the concept of chaos from ultimate evil to potential savior for the downtrodden. It's a dangerous reframing. And yet, looking around at the faces of my fellow miners, I see his words taking root. Desperation can make one grasp even a poisoned blade if it promises escape. Joran bites his lip. I can see turmoil in his eyes. He's a good man, loyal, but he's also seen the truth of our existence. Finally, he asks quietly, "What exactly are you proposing we do?" Start worshipping these gods. Form a rebellion. We have no weapons, no resources, just a handful of half-starved miners. Arlson smiles faintly, a predator's smile in priestly guise. First, we pledge ourselves to a new cause, in our hearts and in blood, a small act but meaningful. After that, more of us will gather. We are not as few as you think. Discontent runs through every shift. I have spoken to others quietly over months. This world is ripe for something big. We've also had outside encouragement. Outside, I interject, speaking up for the first time. My voice sounds hoarse. You mean off-world? Arlson looks at me and inclines his head. Yes, Mirael, there are those beyond this planet who watch and wait for flames of rebellion. The gods send their heralds in many guises. In time, you'll meet them. But tonight, it's just us. And our resolve. An uneasy stir at the mention of outsiders. Could be chaos agents or cult leaders from elsewhere. Could even be those mysterious voices guiding him. For a time, we maintain the facade. Arlson says, but when the moment is right, we strike. We sabotage and subvert. We take control of this mine, this colony, and declare it free from the Imperium's tyranny. With the Dark God's blessing, we'll have strength beyond human to prevail. He then adds, almost in a whisper, I know it's hard to accept, but think of today. Think of Kolto's face as he worked men to death. Think of Bren's sneer as he told you to keep working over your friends' corpses. The Emperor didn't stop that. The Emperor didn't save us or punish them, but if we stand together, other powers might. I look around, people are nodding, eyes burning now with a mix of hope and rage. Even Joran is wrestling with himself. I feel it too, a grim seduction, the promise of some payback, some relief from being a victim. Arlson carefully sets the book aside and produces a small knife from his belt, the kind used for cutting seals on supply crates. One by one, he says softly, we either step forward and seize our fate, or we stay chained. I, for one, am done with chains. He draws the blade across his own palm without flinching. Dark blood wells up. He holds out his hand, letting the blood drip onto a scrap of parchment from his book. Then he looks to us. Who will join me? For a heartbeat, no one moves. My heart thuds. This is the point of no return. Scabs steps forward first. I will. He roughly takes the knife and slices his hand, hissing at the pain but not stopping. He lets his blood drip onto the parchment with Arlson's. Sayla steps forward, tears drying, a new determination in her eyes. For my brother, she whispers, and cuts her palm, adding her blood. Twin cracks his neck and practically snatches the knife. I'm in. Throne damn this place. His blood joins the rest. The knife comes to Jorin. He hesitates, hand shaking. He looks at me. In his eyes, I see years of faith battling with raw truth. I place a hand on his shoulder. We stand together, whatever comes. My voice is barely audible. Jorin closes his eyes a moment, then they snap open with resolve. For Mirael, for all of us, he says quietly, and cuts his palm deeply. Blood drips to the parchment, then the knife is in my hand, all eyes on me now. My mouth is dry as ash. I think of my parents who taught me to thank the Emperor for every crust of bread. I think of the feel of Big John's blood on my hands, of Ratty's muffled cries of pain, of the obelisk throbbing with forbidden power in the dark. What has loyalty earned us? Nothing but graves. I slash the blade across my palm. It burns. A line of red wells up. I hold my hand over the parchment and watch the droplets fall, mixing into the growing pool of a half-dozen people's lifeblood. Strangely, I feel relief as I do it, as if laying down a burden I'd carried too long. Arlson takes the blood-soaked page and holds it up in both hands. Blood given, oath taken, he intones. We pledge ourselves to the dark gods, that they may break our chains and grind our oppressors to dust. In return, we offer our service, our toil, and if need be, our lives. Let this covenant be sealed. A few of us murmur something. I'm not sure what to say. Twin growls, death to the false emperor, an echo of some phrase he must have heard. Others repeat it softly. My heart skips at uttering such blasphemy. But then I recall Kalto's smirk, and I whisper it too. Death to the false emperor. Something shifts. It's like a subtle drop in air pressure, a faint stirring in the corners of the tunnel. For a moment, I swear the shadows themselves coil and writhe in approval. The feeling of being watched returns, but this time not by a neglectful emperor, rather by an attentive, hungry something in the dark. Arlson exhales, shoulders sagging as if a great weight has lifted from him. He smiles at us, a fierce, genuine smile. It's done. We're one in purpose now. Brothers and sisters in darkness. We each bind our cut hands with dirty rags or sleeves. I see hope glimmering in faces that moments ago were lost. It's a dangerous hope, but it's hope. The rest of the meeting is spent in hushed planning. Arlson reveals that some PDF troopers in the small garrison are already cult allies, waiting for an uprising. Supply caches of weapons have been hidden in certain mine tunnels. The thought that guns were under our noses while we hacked with picks both thrills and infuriates me. He details a rough plan: sabotage communications, incite simultaneous revolts in multiple shafts, assassinate key overseers and enforcers at once. It will be bloody, but if executed swiftly, the planet could fall to us before off-world forces respond. Hearn, a PDF captain name, is mentioned, apparently one of the ringleaders among the soldiers secretly loyal to chaos. The idea that even some of the oppressor's guard are on our side is heartening. As the hours pass, we commit to various roles. Scabs and Twin will smuggle out a few stolen las pistols and knives they've been hiding to arm trusted miners. Joran and I, with our access to the deep mines, will sabotage the power lines and ore tram to create confusion when the time comes. Arlson says he'll handle spiritual guidance and contact with our off-world friends. Apparently a warband of chaos space marines, he finally admits, causing gasps. We have the interest of actual traitor Astartes, terrifying and exhilarating. We agree on a sign, a scrawled 8-pointed star in chalk or blood, that will mark safe meeting spots and signal the eve of revolt. That symbol from the chamber now becomes our emblem of liberation. Eventually, the meeting breaks. We clasp hands one by one, sealing our camaraderie. Even those who were strangers are now bound by shared secret and oath. The energy in the tunnel is intense, anger and excitement swirling. As I slip back into my bunk an hour before morning shift, my mind races too much to sleep. Did we really just pledge ourselves to chaos? The rational part of me screams that we've doomed our souls. The other part counters. Our souls were damned in these pits anyway. At least now we have a fighting chance. I look at Joran below as he settles, still awake. He meets my eyes. There's fear there, but also resolve. We nod to each other in the dark. No turning back. I dream fitfully. In my dreams, I see that greenish demon light again, but this time it shapes itself into something like a giant hand reaching down into the mines. I'm falling, and it catches me, saving me from smashing into the abyss. A voice echoes in the caverns of my mind. I can't recall the words upon waking, only that it was comforting and frightening at once. When morning comes, or the Hab's dim chronometer say it does, I feel a strange mix of dread and anticipation. The next couple of days pass in a tense blur. On the surface, we all pretend. We march to work, we hack at stone, we mumble our prayers, but our eyes watch for moments, for signs. Here and there, I notice things that would seem innocuous to an outsider. The chalk scrawl of a star on a tool crate, the signal, ready. A friendly nod from a PDF guard who normally wouldn't meet my eye. The way Arlson's sermons in the morning devotions take on a double meaning about breaking bonds and endurance. We quietly spread the word to miners we trust. Some balk in fear or genuine faith. Those we leave alone, no need to rouse suspicion. But many are receptive. Everyone has a grudge or a dead loved one on Makenna 7. Our numbers grow. A small flash of hope comes when I see Sella walking without crutches, her face hardened by loss, but set on joining us. Even the injured won't sit out what's to come. Ratty unfortunately succumbed to his injuries soon after the collapse. We count him among the many reasons we fight. Each night we refine our plan in whispers in locked washrooms or back alleys. We time it for the next heavy cargo shuttle departure, when many extra workers load ore and security is a bit thinner in the mines because they're topside overseeing the shipment. Also, it means plenty of volatile fuel and ammo around as tempting targets. We plan for someone to sabotage the Voxcom array to cut off outside communication at the start. That falls to a disillusioned Vox officer in the comms tower. Arlson had recruited him quietly. Twin and a few hotheads will rig explosives in the fuel depot as a diversion and potential kill blast. Scabs and I coordinate on disabling the power to the automated turrets on the perimeter. Captain Hearn has rallied perhaps half of the PDF garrison to side with us. The others still loyal or on the fence will be neutralized quickly, we hope, once chaos, the lowercase and uppercase both, starts. Hearn promises to handle the Arbites precinct. Apparently, some of his agents have already poisoned their morning rations to slow their reaction when things kick off. We stash crude weapons at strategic spots, a stolen case of frag grenades in the ventilation shaft, some auto pistols hidden in a false drain, sharpened rebar spikes scattered in tool racks for those without firearms. Each night that passes, I'm amazed we haven't been caught. Tension is high. A careless word could unravel everything. But desperation makes for good discipline, it seems. Finally, the day arrives. Dawn of the third day since the cave-in. The atmosphere feels electric with pent-up energy. I see it in everyone's faces at muster. The furtive glances, the sweat on brows that isn't just from heat. My heart won't stop pounding. I force myself to breathe steady, stick to the routine, appear normal. We descend to the mines as usual. Work begins. But my mind is not on drilling. It's on the timer ticking down. Each hour is midday break, when most crews are assembled above ground for lunch and the shipment prep is in full swing. A prime moment with everyone out in the open. The morning crawls. I barely hear Foreman Bren's barked orders or feel the weight of the ore sacks I'm lugging. Every scrape of boots or distant clatter sets me on edge, expecting alarms. But none come. As the sunless noon approaches, I find myself assigned up top to help load the shuttle, a stroke of fortune, or someone pulled strings, because I'll be near the action. At the surface loading yard, massive container cranes hoist crates of processed ore into a bulk lander. Overseer Calto is there in person, clipboard in hand, looking stressed. Shuttle schedules do that. Tech Adept Yil is conspicuously absent. Since his quarantine business, he hasn't reappeared, presumably still studying the artifact below or avoiding us tainted laborers. Fine by me. I catch sight of Arlson in the distance, ostensibly blessing the cargo, or some such formality. But he meets my eyes and gives the tiniest nod. My mouth is dry as salt. I clench and unclench my fists. The yard cogitator bells chime to signal midday break. Normally, we'd drop tools for a short lunch. Now it's the signal to begin. For a few long seconds, nothing happens. I wonder if someone lost their nerve, or if I misread the time. Then, a deafening explosion tears through the air, coming from the direction of the fuel depot near the shuttle pad. A fireball blooms, painting the gray sky orange. Shockwaves knock people off their feet. A chorus of screams erupts. This is it. I instinctively duck behind a stack of crates. Chaos, the general kind, unfolds rapidly. Workers scatter or cower. A siren wails. Calto is shouting, furious and panicked, trying to restore order. His guards rally to him, weapons raised. From my vantage, I see Twin, face smeared with soot, eyes wild, emerging from behind a ruined fuel tank, the detonator still in his hand. By some miracle, he's alive and grinning like a maniac. He tosses the spent detonator aside and pulls out a slug pistol, firing at a group of security enforcers who were running to the fire. One goes down, clutching his throat. All hell breaks loose. Half a dozen other small blasts sound off around the compound. Grenades we planted, taking out the turret emplacements and cutting power cables. The floodlights sputter and die, plunging us into a smoke-hazed gloom lit by the flicker of flames. Automated alarms glitch and fall silent. Miners are yelling, some in confusion, many in rebellion. I see scabs on a roof of a shed, waving a stolen autogun and spraying bullets at the admin building. I see Sella, one arm in a sling, hurl a rock at a fleeing overseer with a snarl. A few who were unaware of the plan just drop to the ground in shock or run for cover. Calto's voice crackles over the Vox system. Some backup power must still be feeding his mic. Treason! Mutiny! All security! All PDF! Suppress the workers! Code black! I repeat, code dash! His transmission ends in a burst of static. Somebody likely shot the speaker out or cut the line. I peek out and witness 2 mine guards hauling Calto bodily toward the office, probably to shield him. He struggles, protesting. One of our cultists, a burly hauler named Kor, charges at them with a metal beam, but a guard guns him down mid-sprint. Gritting my teeth, I grab the heavy wrench I'd hidden in my coat and sprint toward that scene. They drag Calto past Foreman Bren, who is cringing behind a pallet. Bren catches sight of me coming, and his eyes widen. "Mirael, what are you—" He doesn't finish. I swing the wrench with a roar, catching Bren in the side of the head. There's a crack, and he goes down in a heap, his data slate skittering away. Emperor, forgive me. I don't even check if he's dead. He probably is. 1 down. Calto's protectors spin at the sound. The overseer himself breaks free in a panic and starts bolting towards the shuttle, maybe hoping to hide inside or escape. Before the guards can raise their guns, a last shot from somewhere hits one in the back. He screams and falls. The other guard turns to return fire, but out of the smoke lunges Joran. Emperor knows when he got here, driving a long screwdriver right into the gap of the guard's helmet. The man collapses with a gurgle. Joran yanks the bloody tool free, chest heaving. His eyes meet mine, wild and almost disbelieving at what he just did. I nod fiercely, and a shaky grin tugs at his face. Calto is still running, surprisingly fast for a gaunt administrator. He scrambles up the ramp of the ore shuttle, where a few shuttle crew are cowering. Coward. A booming voice echoes over the fray. Authoritative but unfamiliar. "Lay down your arms and you will not be harmed." I turn to see a squad of PDF soldiers in flak armor rushing in from the barracks direction. My heart nearly stops. If they open fire with their lasguns on this rabble of miners, it'll be a slaughter. But then I notice the one shouting is Captain Hearn, and as he raises his sidearm, he points it not at us, but at one of his own bewildered PDF who hasn't caught on. Blam! The poor loyalist trooper drops, a neat hole drilled through the back of his skull. "For the true gods," Hearn bellows, and about half of the PDF with him join the chant, turning their weapons on the other half who are caught completely off guard. In seconds, a firefight erupts between the PDF themselves, red las blasts crisscrossing. This is incredibly fortunate and dangerous. The loyalist PDF and a few Arbites, I see their distinctive carapace armor among them, are now fighting traitor PDF and rebel miners. Absolute confusion. One Arbite with a combat shotgun rushes out of a doorway, firing at a cluster of miners taking cover. 2 go down in sprays of blood. Before he can pump another round, Arson of all people appears behind him, swinging a retrieved shock maul. He smashes the Arbites in the back of the head with a sickening crunch. The armored man crumples. Arson, robes discarded to reveal a flak vest marked with crudely painted symbols, raises the maul and cries out, "To freedom, my brothers! No pity, no fear!" A ragged cheer answers him. More miners join the battle, dogpiling isolated loyalist troops, overwhelming by sheer numbers and ferocity. I see a group beating an enforcer to death with pit hammers. It's grotesque and savage, and honestly, after what we've been through, it feels right. The air stinks of ozone, smoke, and blood. My ears ring with gunfire and screams. I try to find any coherent front line, but it's skirmishes everywhere. Joran and I stick together, ducking behind a crate as a loyalist PDF sprays our way. Splinters fly. We pop up and return fire, Joran using a las pistol he picked up, me throwing my wrench. The pistol shot misses, but my wrench clobbers the soldier in the face. He stumbles back and a miner tackles him to the ground with a knife. In a lull, we sprint toward the shuttle. My gut says we have to stop Calto from escaping or radioing out from its long-range comm. Inside the cargo bay of the shuttle, we find Calto, He's cornered by Twin and Sella. Twin has a long knife drawn, Sella aiming a pilfered stub gun with her one good arm. Calto, on his knees, is babbling. "I can negotiate. The Administratum will pardon you. I'll see to it. You can't possibly win. The Navy will come. You'll all be executed." Twin has heard enough. With a snarl, he grabs Calto by the hair. "Not all of us," he spits, and draws the knife hard across Calto's throat. Hot blood sprays over the shuttle's steel floor, and Calto gurgles, eyes bulging, before collapsing in a heap. Sela lowers her gun, blinking as if unsure whether to be horrified or satisfied. I flinch. Not that the bastard didn't deserve it, but because it was so sudden. Twin wipes the blood off his face, breathing heavily. "One chain broken," he says, almost laughing. I nod, though the messy execution churns my stomach. Calto's dead eyes stare at nothing. One of the main architects of our misery gone. I feel nothing yet. Maybe later it'll hit me. "Check the Vox," I tell them. We search the shuttle cockpit and find a junior pilot hiding. Joran drags the trembling man out and tosses him to Twin, who ties him up with a fuel hose. We make sure the shuttle's Vox link is smashed and the ship grounded. No pleas for help will go out from here. That task done, we hasten back outside to rejoin the main fight. What's left of it? The yard is a scene from a nightmare. Fire from the depot casts everything in hellish red. Bodies lie everywhere. Miners, guards, PDF, Arbeitses, indistinguishable in death. The battle is mostly over. We, the rebels, have carried the day in this corner of the world at least. A knot of survivors are gathered by the torn Aquila flagpole, where Arzen stands atop a drum of promethium, rallying. Hearn and his PDF troops, maybe 20 of them, stand guard, weapons still hot. They have a few prisoners on their knees. The remaining are Arbeits judges, a couple of foremen who were captured rather than killed. As we approach, Arlson raises his arms. His face is bruised, one eye swollen nearly shut, but he's exultant. "Behold, brothers and sisters, the first dawn of our new world. We have taken Makenna 7 from the false emperor's clutches." A ragged cheer answers. I see old Seb's crumpled form nearby, shot through the chest. He must have joined late, or maybe he was just caught in crossfire trying to help someone. I bow my head a moment for him. He warned me about hope. And here we are anyway. Arlson continues, voice fervent. "Already, the dark gods bless our endeavor. The omens are good. Look." He points skyward. I tilt my gaze up. Through the smog, the clouds churn with unnatural speed, tinged faintly green from the fumes and flames. Lightning, pink and forked, dances silently within. It's eerie, but also could just be the weather. To Arlson, everything is a sign now. He jumps down and strides to the Arbeits prisoners. "These lapdogs of the corpse on Terra would take away our victory. Should we let them live?" "No!" several voices shout. One prisoner, defiant to the end, spits at Arlson's feet and begins to shout the litany of absolution. Twin casually puts a bullet in his head, shutting him up. The other Arbeits tremble. Arlson places a hand almost gently on one officer's head, whispering, "The Emperor is not here for you now, friend." Then he nods to Sella, who angrily steps up and, with visible effort, pulls the trigger of her stub gun. The Arbalest collapses, joining the many corpses. I share a glance with Joran. He's watching all this, breathing hard, face smudged with soot, a streak of blood across his cheek. He looks as troubled as I feel by some of the brutality, but also relieved beyond measure to see our oppressors at our mercy. Hearn clears his throat, addressing Arlson. "We've secured all strategic points, Preacher. The remaining PDF who wouldn't join are disarmed or dead. The comm tower is down. Communications are cut." His eyes gleam with zeal. All according to plan. Now we must prepare for the counterattack. Arlson smiles, the firelight making him look almost demonic. The counterattack will not come from the Imperium, Captain. Or if it does, not in time. Our friends out there. He casts his gaze toward the sky and the distant nebula of the eye. Will ensure we are not easily retaken. They guide us even now. As if to punctuate his statement, an unnatural howl echoes in the distance. It sounds like metal tearing and a thunderclap together. Many of us startle. From the direction of Shaft 13 and the generator station, a pillar of sickly green light suddenly erupts, shooting up into the sky like a flare. My gut clenches. That's where we left the obelisk. And Yill. What in the hell? Joran breathes. A collective dread falls over our huddled band of victors. The column of light pulses, and I feel a tugging sensation inside my chest, as if the air itself is being sucked toward that beam. Hearn's men mutter nervously, making warding signs. They know warp witchery when they see it. Arlson's triumph falters. That must be the machine priest's doing, he says uncertainly. Perhaps trying to destroy the artifact. We should dash. He never finishes. With a crack like a planet splitting, the green beam shatters outward. A wave of force ripples through the ground, knocking us over like pins. I hit the blood-soaked dirt hard, ears ringing worse than any blast before. From the direction of that beam comes a sound that freezes my soul, a chittering, screeching chorus of unnatural voices, and then shapes. Impossible shapes, slithering and scuttling out of the smoke-choked mine entrances and torn ventilator shafts. The warp has broken through. Some are vaguely humanoid, but with two long limbs and faces that are just knots of shifting green fire. Others are bestial, clawed things that skitter on all fours or hover disturbingly above the ground. The one thing they share is those sickly luminescent eyes and the unnatural emerald glow outlining their forms. "Demons!" someone screams. A few of the nearer miners, those not steeped in our cult ideology, outright panic and run. One is snatched by a swift blur and literally torn in half before our eyes, blood spraying across the ground. Chaos Marines were one thing I was prepared to greet. Actual warp-spawned demons are beyond any nightmare. Pandemonium reclaims the field we thought we had won. PDF troopers fire wildly at the apparitions. Some shots find purchase, banishing smaller forms in sizzling bursts. Last fire can harm them, thank the throne or the dark gods. I'm not sure whom to thank anymore. But more keep coming. Twin, fearless or mad, charges a gibbering thing with multiple arms, hacking with his knife. It shrieks and dissolves under the onslaught. But then another larger one, a vaguely female-shaped horror, with scythe-like limbs, pounces on him from the side. Twin screams as he's lifted, impaled through the stomach. With a wicked, trilling laugh, the creature flings him aside like a rag doll. He hits a wall and goes limp. Thrown. Twin might be dead or dying. I can't tell. Arlson staggers to his feet, shock written plain on his face. This was not expected. "Hold fast," he cries. "This is a test. The dark gods send their blessed legions to aid us." Aid? The demons don't seem picky about whose blood they're spilling. One of Hearn's PDF is literally being eaten alive by a pack of small, gremlin-like things that cackle as they gnaw his arms. Arlson tries to assert control. He begins chanting phrases from his book, words of supplication or command, perhaps. A tall, spindly demon with a horned crest glides toward him, tilting its head as if in curiosity at his words. Arlson keeps chanting, raising the bloodied parchment of our oath. The horned demon pauses. Could it be listening? No, It surges forward with lightning speed. A cruelly barbed limb plunges through Arlson's chest from behind. His eyes go wide, a gout of blood spewing from his mouth mid-chant. The daemon lifts him, its faceless head almost studying him like a morbid trophy. Our leader, the visionary who promised us deliverance, writhes and spasms, impaled a meter off the ground. With a contemptuous flick, the horned demon slings Arlson off its claw. His body hits the ground in a heap not far from me, lifeless eyes staring into nothing. A pitiful whimper comes from someone near. It might have been me. Arlson's blood soaks into the earth alongside the others. All illusions now truly shattered, our rebel band does the only sensible thing. We break and run. Some towards buildings for cover, some anywhere away from those monsters. I find myself grabbing Joran by the arm. He was rooted in terror, firing his last pistol uselessly on empty charge. "Go!" I shout, tugging him. We sprint toward the shuttle. Maybe the thick hull will provide shelter. Hearn and the remaining traitor PDF fall back in semi-order, covering retreat. "Pull back! Regroup on the shuttle!" Hearn yells. About a dozen of us make it up the shuttle ramp. Sella, with her sling, helped Twin. Unbelievably, he's still alive, crawling with one arm. Entrails trailing, the sight will haunt me, but two miners drag him in gently. A handful of PDF join us, slamming the shuttle hatch as demonic shapes close in. Through a porthole, I see Hearn and two of his men still outside, backing up slowly while firing disciplined volleys. The horned demon and its lesser ilk approach them. Hearn salutes toward the shuttle, maybe toward us or just fate, and then draws a plasma grenade from his belt. Emperor's mercy. The flash and boom shakes our vessel. When the smoke clears, naught remains of Captain Hearn or the demons that were about to overrun him. A crater and charred ash, he took them with him. Inside the shuttle hold, we pant and stare at each other in shock. One of the PDF, face ashen, whispers, the warp, what have we done?" No one answers. The survivors, maybe 20 in all, are a motley of wounded, terrified humans who seconds ago thought they won their freedom. Thuds start to reverberate on the hull, the smaller creatures clawing or throwing themselves at the shuttle. The hull creaks but holds. It's armored for void travel, thank the Emperor, or whomever will listen. Joran is beside me, clutching his Aquila pendant so tightly his knuckles are bloodless. His eyes brim with tears as he stares at Arlson's corpse visible through the still open ramp. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he chokes out. I shake my head beyond words. It's all unraveling. Perhaps the warp artifact's destruction tore open a breach, or our summoning invited too much. Either way, our rebellion is turning into a literal hell. A sudden new noise, engines loud and powerful from above. For a wild moment, I fear it's an Imperial gunship come to strafe us. But when I peer out a viewport, I see them descending through the smoky sky. Dropships, black and spiked, bearing the 8-pointed star. The Chaos Space Marines have arrived. 3 heavy dropships slam onto the scorched landing field outside. Ramps crash down and out pour towering armored giants in Baroque armor. Some crimson and brass, others midnight black with glowing runes. They wade into the swarms of minor demons without hesitation, bolters roaring, chain axes revving. A bizarre turn. The Astartes, our supposed allies, are now fighting the very demons unleashed. It's a whirlwind of monstrous titans against warp beasts. The ground literally shakes. Within minutes, the field grows quieter. Through static-laced auspex on the shuttle's console, we catch glimpses. A hulking chaos lord, wreathed in crackling energy, impaling the horned demon on a sword of black fire. Lesser creatures banished back to the warp by disciplined volleys and cruel laughter. These traitor Marines live for battle like this. As the last warp spawn dissipates into oily smoke, the Chaos Marines regroup. They begin scouring the area, executing any surviving Loyalist personnel with brutal efficiency. One finds Arlson's body and kicks it aside like trash. Our shuttle is soon surrounded by them. A sharp command from outside. "Open it!" Metal shrieks. They're forcing the ramp. The few PDF with us look to me and each other with panic. Sella raises her pistol shakily, as do two others. Ready to sell our lives if these new arrivals mean to kill us too. I've had enough killing for today. I motion them to lower weapons and I step forward, slowly hitting the ramp release myself. With a hiss, it opens. Outside stands a Chaos Space Marine in ornate armor, helm-shaped like a snarling demon. He surveys us survivors with what might be amusement or disdain. Behind him, a dozen more stand ready. I summon courage and step out first, hands open and raised. "My lord," I manage, voice cracking. "We, the freed people of Makenna 7, welcome you." It sounds pathetic, but what else can I say? His helmet's eye lenses glare red. Up close, I truly appreciate how insignificant we humans are to these transhumans. He stands nearly 3 meters, and the aura of sheer malevolence around him is staggering. A rumbling laugh comes from his grill. "So these are the wretches who lit the fire." He reaches out with a gauntlet, almost casually flicking a claw under my chin to lift it. I fight every urge to flinch as the blade tip draws a hot line of blood. "You did well enough," he says, somewhat mockingly. "The Imperials are broken here." Behind me, Joran steps out, audibly gulping. The Marine shifts his attention to him briefly. Joran just bows his head. A second Marine stomps forward, this one with tusks on his helm and wearing a cloak of flayed skins. "Shall we start rounding the cattle, Lord Davroth?" he growls. "Our ships are ready in orbit to load the ore and fresh slaves." Slaves. The word twists my gut. But of course, why did we think we would be free under chaos? We swapped one master for another. Lord Davroth, for that must be who the first is, nods. Yes, and the strong among them can be offered a place in the cult militia. The weak. He chuckles, a cruel metallic sound. Our flesh for the harvest. My heart sinks further than thought possible. All around, the traitor Astartes set about their work. Already more landers descend, some fitted for cargo, some likely full of dark tech priests to strip the mine. One by one, we, the surviving rebels, are herded out of the shuttle at gunpoint by towering spiked warriors. They march us back to the yard where victory had turned to nightmare and now to a bleak new order. Exhausted, wounded, shell-shocked, none of us resist. What would be the point? Those of us still alive have nothing left to fight with. In the yard, a chaos sorcerer in elaborate robes walks among the carnage, chanting incantations, perhaps closing the warp rift or consecrating the ground to their dark gods. A sickly green haze still lingers, but he weaves it into a new portal. I glimpse, with horror, demonic shapes returning through it, carrying strange equipment. They vanished only to be summoned back under control, it seems. The dead are being piled. I see some of our friends among them. Scabs, torn apart, hardly recognizable but for his tattooed arm. Twin. They dragged his broken body out of the shuttle, now tossed on a heap, his once fierce face slack in death. Old Seb, a chaos trooper, kicks his corpse aside to join the pile, making anger flare in me momentarily. We, the living, are corralled by a squad of traitor guardsmen who arrived with the warband. They force us to our knees. One by one, our hands are bound behind our backs with coarse wire. Joran is right beside me. He is trembling, eyes squeezed shut in either prayer or despair. Maybe both. I lean my shoulder into his, trying to offer some comfort. He opens his eyes and looks at me with a gaze that asks, "Was it all for nothing?" I have no answer, so I just whisper, voice cracking, "I'm here. We're still here." It's a pitiful solace. The Chaos Marines pay us little heed now. We're just a small portion of the prize. Davroth is barking orders about fortifying the mine entrances and preparing for an Imperial counter-invasion that might come, though likely too late or not at all if warp storms oblige. Day fades to night, or what passes for night under the perpetual clouds, as fires gutter and are extinguished by the new occupiers. None of us move from where we are. Any who did were beaten back into line. After some time, a brute in spiked armor, a chaos champion of some sort, strides over, looking us over with contempt. These will go on the third transport. Keep them collared. If any act up, geld them or remove limbs. Makes no odds as long as they can work. His voice is like a rasp on bone. We are tagged. Literally, metal tags clamped to our ears or wrists, with strange symbols I don't recognize, maybe denoting which war band or slave lot we belong to. My tag feels cold and final. They don't even bother separating the obvious troublemakers from meek ones. Those of us who fought hardest earlier now stand dull-eyed. Perhaps they know our spirit is broken enough. When one older miner, weeping over the body of his son, starts shouting curses at the traitors, a Chaos Marine backhands him without even looking, snapping the man's neck. He falls dead and no one else says a word. As I shuffle forward in the slave column, I notice familiar faces and the absence of others. Among the piles of corpses being cleared, I think I glimpse old Seb. His unmistakable, craggy features and cloudy eye stare blankly at the ashen sky. The old man had survived countless shifts in the darkness, only to die in the light of a new tyrant's dawn. Perhaps it's better he didn't live to see what our victory became. I swallow hard, silently thanking him for trying to teach us caution that we failed to heed. Around the yard, the Chaos Warriors and their traitor soldiers efficiently sort the spoils. Those miners too injured or old to work are dragged out of line. Some plead for mercy. They are given none. A Chaos Marine impassively executes a wounded man with a bolt round, splattering gore across the cracked ground. An old woman who can barely stand is bayoneted by a traitor guardsman and left where she falls. The message is clear. Only the useful survive. We traded the Imperium's harsh rule for something arguably crueler. At least the Imperium pretended our lives had value in their grand cosmic plan. To these new masters, we are nothing but meat and sinew to be expended. My group is deemed fit enough. The collar around my neck hums. I feel the prick of needles as it likely samples my blood, or implants a device to ensure obedience. Joran winces as his own collar activates. We exchange a look. There is fear, yes, but also a shared guilt. This isn't the future we imagined when we whispered in the dark about freedom. It's a nightmare of our own making. Nearby, Twin's corpse lies cooling, half hidden under a torn banner. For all his talk of making the oppressors pay, he ended gutted by a horror from beyond. Sayla stands limping in her shackles, eyes empty, the fight and faith utterly drained from her. Ratty, poor boy, didn't live to see the rebellion succeed or fail. Maybe he was lucky to miss this end. With a lurch, one of the heavy transport ships touches down in the yard, dirt and ash billowing. Our captors start prodding us forward with shock prods. We trudge up a loading ramp, past grimy armored figures who tally us like livestock. I'm toward the back of the line. Before I board, I crane my neck for one last look at the only home I've ever known. In the flicker of fires and dropship thrusters, the mine pit yawns black and endless. the equipment around it twisted and broken from the upheaval. Scattered bodies and wrecks mar the ground, and looming above, barely visible through the gloom, the distant stars are coming out, cold, uncaring pinpricks. Among them swirls a red stain of nebula, the great eye, as if a baleful gaze is watching our departure with cruel amusement. In the rubble, I spot something shining. The little medallion Seb found in the cavern, the Aquila icon. It lies trampled in mud. On impulse, I shuffle slightly out of line to pick it up. A guardsman raises a shock prod, but the Chaos Marine overseeing him holds a hand out to stay the blow. The Marine stares at me. Maybe he finds my small act amusing or pathetic. He says nothing as I pocket the medallion and hurry up the ramp to join the others. They chain us to metal benches in the transport hold. The hatch closes, sealing us in darkness, save for a few dim red lumen strips. The engines rumble beneath our feet. As the ship lifts off, I feel gravity lighten. Joran, chained next to me, tilts his head back against the hull, eyes vacant. I nudge him gently. He turns to me and in a cracked whisper asks, "Was it worth it?" A question I cannot answer, a question that will haunt me forever. I search for words and find only a feeble apology. "I'm sorry," I murmur. He just shakes his head, a tear finally escaping down his grime-streaked face. I lean against him, shoulder to shoulder, as we once huddled in the dark of the tunnels. We share our warmth, scant comfort that it is. Around us, sobs, coughs, and a deathly quiet. Those too numb to cry stare blankly. A couple murmur half-forgotten prayers, one to the Emperor for forgiveness, another to the Chaos gods for mercy. Neither will be answered. There's an old saying I heard once in a propaganda broadcast, something like, "Better to die for the Emperor than live for yourself." I think bitterly that in our case, we might end up doing both, dying for someone else's cause after failing our own. I close my eyes. In the darkness behind my eyelids, ghosts of the last days flit by. Arlson's hopeful smile as we drank to the uprising, Kalto's face right before Twin's blade opened his throat, the demon bursting from the obelisk, Davroth's cruel armored form standing over us. No, it wasn't supposed to end like this. But then, nothing in our lives ever went the way it should. "Emperor, forgive us," I hear Joran whisper shakily. I almost laugh, a cracked, humorless chuckle. The sound startles me and a few others around. Forgiveness? If the Emperor is out there, I doubt he cares. And if the dark gods are listening, well, we saw their idea of salvation. Instead of any prayer or plea, I find myself humming a scrap of a mining song old Seb used to sing to lighten the mood in the pit. Just a simple melody about a faraway light. My voice croaks at first, but I keep at it softly. Surprisingly, Sella picks it up a few rows ahead, her voice low and hollow but carrying the tune. Another joins and another. It's absurd. A half-dozen broken slaves humming an old work song in the cold belly of a warship. But it's the only comfort any of us have left. The ship shudders, probably breaking atmosphere. The air gets colder, thinner. The humming falters into silence as people cough or weep quietly. I open my eyes and see a small round porthole across from me. Through it, against the blackness of space, Makenna 7 shrinks below us. A poisoned marble of gray cloud and dark scars. A world we tried to claim as our own, now just another conquest for chaos. Perhaps somewhere down there, deep underground, the very rocks remember our struggle, our little rebellion that flared so brightly and burned out so fast. Perhaps not. The Imperium will write us off as a loss. The galaxy moves on. A bitter smile twists my lips despite everything. We really showed the Imperium, didn't we? For a day we held freedom in our hands until it slipped through like sand, leaving nothing but the stain of what we sacrificed. I finger the little Aquila pendant in my pocket, cracked and muddy. Once it symbolized hope for deliverance. Now I don't even know why I picked it up. Maybe a reminder of who we were, or an irony to cling to. Joran notices and asks voicelessly with his eyes, "Why keep that after all this?" I press it into his bound hands gently. "For memory," I whisper. He nods, closing his fingers around it. The transport lurches. I think we're entering the warp now. A wave of nausea and dread washes over me. The lights flicker. Someone retches. It's cold, or maybe that's just my soul. In the warp-touched gloom, I murmur to Joran, the only truth I have left. "We tried." My voice cracks. "We gave everything for nothing." He leans his head on my shoulder like a child seeking solace. "At least," he rasps, "we're not dying down in that pit." I manage a hollow chuckle. "No, we'll die out here in the stars instead." Somehow the absurdity of it makes it easier. We lost, but at least this hell will be different from the last. Around us the ship creaks and groans as it hurtles through the Imperium. I feel the collar biting my neck with each shiver. There is no telling where or when they'll drop us out. Could be a cursed foundry world, a nightmare demon planet, or some meat grinder warfront. All the same to them. But as I look around at the faces of those who remain, Joran, Sela, a few others from my crew and other crews, I realize something. Broken as we are, we did something no one thought possible. We rattled our chains. And though we ended in new chains, the fault for that lies not just with us, but with this cruel galaxy that never gave us a chance. Maybe in some other life, under a kinder star, we might have been heroes, or at least lived and died in peace. But not here. Not in the 41st millennium. Not on a mining world at the edge of hell. I was born in the dark, and chances are I'll die in it. That flicker of light we sought, it was just the false dawn of chaos before an even darker night. Somewhere beyond the hull, something roars, perhaps warp turbulence, perhaps demonic echoes. No one reacts beyond a flinch. We're past fearing what we cannot change. I loll my head back and stare at the vibrating ceiling. My throat aches, but I find myself speaking softly to whoever might still be listening. Maybe to the Emperor, maybe to the Void. In the grim darkness of the far future, there was only our war. And we lost. Joran's breath hitches. Perhaps he recognizes the twist on that old adage. I sigh, feeling more weary than ever. At last, I truly understand what life in the Imperium means. It's not living at all, just different shades of dying. We took our shot at changing that, a final desperate gamble, and now here we are. I glance once more at Joran, my brother in fate. If nothing else, we have each other in this final darkness. He meets my eyes and manages a faint, sad smile. "I was born in darkness," I murmur to him, recalling my first words in this tale. His smile grows a fraction. He remembers. A tear rolls down my cheek, but it's too dark for anyone to see. And now, surely, I will die in it. He closes his eyes, leaning against me, and I feel him nod. And that is the story of our everyday life on a mining world. A life of unending toil, of fleeting hope, and ultimately a long descent back into the dark.